We see. We want y'all to join in the conversation as well. Of course, you can always watch us live on Facebook, as so many of y'all are starting to tune into right now, as well as on YouTube. We're streaming live on YouTube as well right now. Go to dmvdaily.news to get the interview in its entirety. Remember, tomorrow, 2 p.m., a special live interview with Comptroller Peter Franchos will be in the building here tomorrow. We'll be talking about a lot of things, I'm sure one of them being his possible gubernatorial run in 2022. You don't want to miss that. And on Wednesday, Rabia Chaudhry will be live streaming via Skype from New York, talking about the Anad Saeed case, what's going on the Supreme Court level, the petition they filed, as well as we'll be talking to Harris, a journalist here in the city of Baltimore. We're going to be talking about another case that the state's attorney for Baltimore City seemed to have been a disaster for them. Let's just say that. No, Ivan won't be in the building. He won't be talking about it. We'll be talking to an independent journalist. But there is a case involving Ivan that we'll also be discussing where he just dusted their boots as usual. Remember, you definitely want to call Bates and Garcia if you want a show enough attorney. So we're going to welcome you to the show. Fellas, it's so good to have you back. Finally, y'all weren't around last week. I really had problems last week. I was all by myself. Had the former mayor in here trying to fiddle with things. Couldn't get it right. So we had to just stream live to Facebook. But it still went well. I think the interview still went over really well. But now we got to talk about this stuff, man, because everybody's tuning in. They want to hear what we want to talk about when it comes to these latest announcements. Friday, we got a special announcement that I think most people long waited for, they knew it was coming, is Brandon Scott, former 2nd District Councilman, now Council President, announces he wants to run for mayor of the city of Baltimore. And then the following day, a surprise announcement by Councilman Leon Pinkett that he wants to run for Council President. So let's start with the first one, the more obvious, the Brandon Scott one. And Mark, I want to start with you. You've done a lot of campaigns before. Mm-hmm. We've seen a lot on a citywide and a local level. Mm-hmm. Was that an announcement that you would expect from a mayoral candidate in terms of its optics and everything that was involved with that?
Well, I think he was intentionally trying to keep it low key because their priority was on keeping it secret. Nobody knew about it. They wanted to do that until the night before. They made a special deal with the Baltimore Sun to do an exclusive. They didn't want anyone to know that they were doing it. And so when you choose secrecy and you want to come out with an announcement that's a surprise to everyone, a couple of things you sacrifice. One of which is you can't build a crowd for an event. Because when you tell people say, "Oh, I'm going to Brandon's announcement," so you get, so he was hamstrung by the fact that he was trying to keep it a secret, and so it was kind of lower key than I normally would have thought it would be. But I don't think it's as important these days with the 24-hour news cycle and social media. The splash that your announcement makes is much less important. What's going to be more important is the kind of team he builds in the voter contact program that he's going to institute across the city.
So do you think that he's going to build that type of team come 2020 in his bid to become the next?
I think that he is, I think Marvin, his campaign manager, is a very talented guy. He ran Ian's campaign. He's a senior person in I forgot her name, that ran in Georgia. What's her name? The black lesbian. I mean, not lesbian. The black woman that ran, the woman that ran in Georgia for governor.
Yeah. I know exactly who you're talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue.
I can't think of her name.
Heather Missouri?
No.
I said black lesbian. Okay, Jesus.
In Georgia, not Maryland.
Georgia. He heard lesbian and thought Heather. Shame on you, Sean. No, I can't remember.
Y'all terrible.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember her name, but yeah, Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams. Thank you, Mark Edelson. Oh, Mark Edelson, call your office. If Zeke gets into the District 1 race, are you, for City Council President, are you running in District 1? Call your office. Thank you, Mark Edelson. Anyway, so yeah, he was a senior level staffer in Stacey Abrams' campaign. Marvin knows how to put together field campaigns. He's got Colleen that's helping with his fundraising. and she is a good fundraiser. So I think he certainly is going to put together a professionalized operation. My eyes now turn to Jack and to see what kind of operation he can put together, because Jack hasn't had a race in about 20 years. He's rusty. I mean, I guess he'll turn to Julius, and Julius will buy him $1 million worth of signs. But other than that, I don't exactly know what his strategy is going to be to get reelected, other than feed them watery eggs to the seniors. But I think in this day and age, in this environment, and with this electorate, he's going to have to do better than that to beat Brandon or whoever else gets in.
Really? Mm-hmm. So, I'm just saying, I wasn't all the way impressed with the announcement, the way it was done. I can understand what you're saying. It was kind of a secret, but it was, he made the announcement. He called certain individuals, his colleagues on the council, the night before, and informed them, but never asked, did they, would they support him, or would they stand by him, or anything. It was just like, oh, here's a heads up. I just felt like when you look at other mayoral campaigns that were announced, from Catherine to Sheila, O'Malley, the list goes on and on, it's usually a big to-do. Right? And, Sean, I know you've been close to Brandon for quite some time. Was he in contact with you at all? I mean, do you know of people who were directly contacted and asked to come out and involved in this? Or was this supposed to be, as Mark said, directed to be low-key and just kind of, let's get the media splash, but not really worry about the glitz and the glamour of all the people in the shirts and shebang?
Yeah, I mean, that's what that's why I interpret it as far as to be sort of low-key. I think that, I saw, his announcement, of course, on a number of segments as far as the local news, as well as Facebook, and saw a few people that I know that supported us as far as through the 300 Men March movement, because that's where Brandon and I really through that organization gelled as through a great friendship. I was kind of surprised that I wasn't contacted, because I constantly reached out to Brandon and say, hey, if you're going to do this, let me know, so forth. But yeah, I mean, I think that what happened that day, I think it was. I think it satisfied as far as his needs, as far as just getting the word out and having a small group, and really pretty much being the first one to actually, I guess I shouldn't say first one, but the first big name candidate to actually say, hey, I'm going to, put my name in the hat and run for mayor, and we see what happens. But I think that he was able to he was successful in the point that he got with the feedback that he was looking for, and now it's all about, as far as getting to the people, getting his message out across the city. But I'm very interested in seeing exactly who he's going to have on that ticket, because I think that's going to really determine really if folks going to really truly support him, because of some of the not some of, but probably a majority of a lot of the issues that we've been dealing with as far as within the urban communities.
And I wrote about this the other day.
Oh, I know where that's going.
I mean, I'm literally got thousands within the day. Like, really, I thought other articles did well. This one shot off, and it was about the Best Democratic Club, the ticket that's being proposed, that's being done, and led, of course, by Brandon Scott at the top of the ballot. Shannon Sneed, of course, would be the number two. Hypothetically, she has made I guess it's an unofficial announcement in the Afro. I mean, I wasn't really sure.
She announced that she was considering it in the Afro.
But the Afro basically said she was running. There wasn't no.
Well, her quote is, "I'm thinking about it." But yeah, you're right.
And then so she's, I guess, 99% sure, because being in politics, I'm sure you've heard.
Oh, yeah.
She's been talking to developers,
absolutely,
and big money people trying to get
and labor.
Mm-hmm. So that one's kind of strange, but then the stranger one is Saturday morning. You don't have any planned announcement, nothing that Brandon or anybody else did. You basically have an event that you already have scheduled in your community, and then afterwards you get on Facebook and Twitter and say, oh, by the way, I'm running for council president.
Yeah.
Like, where do they do that at? And of course, we're talking about Leon Pinkett.
Bizarre.
In this case. So you got Leon that looks to be in. He's the first announced candidate. There's no other candidate that's even filed online or at the Board of Elections. And then you have Shannon, who you can pretty much guarantee is in.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that leave us as a city, East versus West, two African-American candidates? Is there room for others to jump into this race possibly.
Zeke Cohen, call your office. Zeke Cohen, call your office. District 1, Zeke Cohen, I think is likely to run. And so I think you'll have at least a three-way race. I don't know who else. I mean, I know that Sharon Green Middleton has called and talked to some folks. I don't know where she'll end up at the end of the day, but I am fairly certain that the city council president's race will not be just the two of them, Leon versus Shannon.
And, and I definitely like both of them. Really adore Shannon a lot. But when you look at those two, it almost begs the question do you think somebody's going to allow them, two first-term candidates, to run for citywide, and neither one of them has? Do you think other people, maybe an Eric Costello, a Sharon Green Middleton, people who have at least more than one term in,
right,
to say, you know what, no, I'm not going to allow that to happen? I mean, even with Zeke, and now I've heard that Zeke, in all fairness, is supposedly has a exploratory committee together based off the changing demographics of the city. I'd love to hear that from him himself, but nonetheless, he would be. Do you think he would be the likely front runner if he does enter the race between just these three? We're not talking about anybody else in the race.
Well, I will say that Zeke will start out with a lot more money than anyone else. And I think that he has done a better job for a longer period of time of raising his profile on citywide issues. I have to give it to Shannon. She has really stepped it up in the last 90 days in terms of really appearing in West Baltimore, North Baltimore, and South Baltimore, and in really, on social media and in press engagements, really kind of raising her profile, because people know Shannon in East Baltimore because she knocked her way through it twice. But outside of East Baltimore, I don't think people knew who Shannon was. I think she's really stepped it up over the past 90 days. But Zeke has been showing people who he was for the last 3.5 years. I mean, he's the one that went to Carroll County and met with the sheriff and made sure that they turned their field trips to Baltimore back on. I mean, that's the kind of high-profile issue that if you're planning to run for citywide office, you should have been doing all along. And I think that perhaps Shannon has been too, but she has not been as good at publicizing it. Whereas Zeke, for rightly or wrongly, is a PR genius. He has a team that makes sure that when he steps out there, and he's stepping out there for the right reasons, don't get me wrong, but his team makes sure that when he steps out there, people know about it. Whereas I don't think that that's a skill that comes as naturally to Shannon or her team. So she's got some catching up to do. But
that's the question. If I'm a voter and I'm listening to you and I'm saying, hold on, the past 90 days, you've been in office over 3 years now, going on closer to 4 come next year. And you're in the past 90 days, I'm just seeing you citywide, not in your district. Right. That seems disingenuous, doesn't it?
Not really, because to a certain extent, you could argue that until she decided to run for city council president, her job was in her district, True. So, there's two ways to look at that. You can say, I think on both sides, you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Some people will say, if you're going to run for city council president, you needed to be dealing with citywide issues and be outside of your district. And some people would say, no, if you want to be city council president, show me you're a damn good district representative. And that's how you get the call for that promotion. So there's two ways to look at it, I think.
So, Sean, here's my question, all right? And this is going to be the next article. I know I'm going to get blasted, especially from Best, probably, and some of my friends on the council. But the biggest question, and this idea came to me when I was talking to my neighbors, who we were just talking this weekend. They caught the news about Leon. They caught the news about Shannon. And their first question out of their mouths, and these are seniors, right? Super voters, the whole nine. And they were like, you know what? We voted for this revolution 4 years ago, not even 4 years ago. Almost half the city council was new. And these young people came in with this energy of, we're going to take over City Hall and we're going to do this, that, and the third. We're going to change the dynamics because there's been people who've been there way too long doing nothing. And yet, it seems like almost half or closer to 3/3 of them are trying to get the hell out of City Hall within the first 4 years. You haven't even got your name. Like, there's no seniority. It's like, okay, I did a term, but now I'm ready to either run citywide, and there's 2 or 3 of them who have said in confidence that they don't even want to be there anymore. And it's not about running for citywide. It's just like, I thought I had the power to change things until I realized that the power lies within the council president and the mayor's office. Have you heard that? Have you seen that? And what's your thoughts about that?
Well, I haven't heard that, but I would say that just thinking about Leon Pinkin, I think that he started maybe, seeing the writing on the wall, because I think it was going to be a tough battle for him to beat the likes of, I think Tory Rose has been doing phenomenal as far as door knocking, engaging in the community, and something that he hasn't really been doing, at least as much as far as from a lot of the community folks that he should be really working with right now. I mean, I've heard issues as far as you can't get a hold of him, and he doesn't return phone calls, he doesn't return emails, or they don't even know what's going on. But then when you see the candidate has been putting in the time and energy as far as to doing what a council person should do, I think that then the dynamics start to change, and people are like, okay, well, maybe we can get this person more, as far as the things that we need, and more accessible, and versus the one that's in the position now. So I think he probably said to himself, let me go out with a bang. Let me see what happens. You know what I mean? And let me try to raise enough money as far as, I know that he has. I think that he can outraise Shannon more than anything, because I think that he does have the more of the means of people with big dollars.
But he hasn't proven that in his last race. I think he has like 20,000 cash on hand. You would think,
right, but
you said,
he was
Leon
one of the last ones that ended up following, ended up actually saying that he was going to run, because I remember that was when with Marsha Bell and a couple.
If you look at him, even 4 years ago, he outraised Marshall Bell and he outraised Sean Tarrant. He clearly has an affinity for the business community that will write him big checks. Right. You could see that on full display during the debate over the $15 minimum wage. This fool said, I can't pass the $15 minimum wage. I have to worry about the businesses in my district. I'm like, chump, you got 2 carryouts and a laundromat. What do who in your district are you worried about? He was catering to the downtown business interests.
BDC, right. He comes from
that. Right, from that. Right.
Yes.
But it's going to be, I think if you put him and Shannon head to head, Shannon may outraise him on the grassroots donation level, and some of the groups that I'm sure best to help them get her.
Absolutely.
But on that level, I don't. He might. I think Zeke outraises both of them combined.
Yes, absolutely. He's got a big head start. Yeah. Zeke is probably going to have.
He already has $250,000.
Right. Well, no, I don't think he has $250,000 on hand, but he may by the end of this reporting period.
Yeah.
But
he had 150 last time.
That's what I'm saying. So I would see $250,000, and Shannon had about 60, and I haven't looked at what Leon had, but probably not much. So he has a big head start, and I don't think they're going to catch up on him in terms of raising money.
No, that's going to be difficult. And then when you look at the dynamics, right? Say Sharon Green Middleton, and that's up where you're at, right? Northwest Baltimore. She gets into the race. That's a whole different dynamic. Now you have 3 African American candidates, and you have Zeke, right, who's not African American, but I think of any candidate, any white candidate on the council, he can assimilate more to
crossover appeal. Absolutely,
than anybody on that council.
Yes,
and so he will certainly pick up a good portion of blacks, especially if he goes into communities and is welcomed by black leaders that bring him in there as surrogates. And he brings that entire South Baltimore team of voters, Mount Washington, I'm sure, the upper part of Northwest Baltimore, likely. So the question then is, who is it? Is it Eric Costello? Because his name has been floated, but other people say that he's really thinking about comptroller, but got mad when Bill Henry led, so he may just stay in his district. Have y'all heard anything about where Costello stands?
I don't think Eric is running for any citywide office at all. I think that, look, part of, I think, Leon getting in was he's going to be Jack's candidate for council president. There's no question about that. And so I don't think that there's a lane open for, if you talk about tickets, Shannon is going to wrap herself twice around Brandon. Jack needs a citywide partner to wrap himself around him. That's going to be...
That's his man.
Yeah,
and he needs white people.
I don't think Costello brings white people to Jack, okay? I don't think Jesus can bring white people to Jack. So I don't think Costello has that kind of pull. But no, I don't think but now
Jack, that was him. Secret Service.
That's all right. But now while we're talking rumors, I've heard that Zeke was going to run for council president and partner with Madam Mayor Sheila Dixon. Do you have any word for us on that, Hassan?
Well, I can tell you this. That has always been my recommendation. I think it's a very good team. When you look at the dynamics, I know Zeke has always been concentrated on education, crime, and safety. Right, and I think now he's starting to really tap into economic development, especially in the African American community and those disproportionately disenfranchised. But when you look at Madam Mayor Dixon, she is crime and safety. I mean, that's her,
Absolutely.
main thing. And when you look at it, it can be Martin O'Malley and Sheila Dixon all over again, just in reverse.
Right.
Last time Martin was at the top and she was there, and they helped each other.
Yep.
Now, whether he would do that is a hope, because again, you got to look at yourself selfishly in the campaign. And do I lose votes in the 46th district and in the white communities because I'm partnering with Sheila Dixon, and because we know that whites, as much as you say about Jack, is almost the same thing with Sheila in certain aspects.
Right. No,
There's
right.
a lot of whites who love Sheila.
Yeah,
They
usually
love
lower
her.
socioeconomic, but yeah, she definitely has white fans.
So, that the question will be then at the end of the day is, will he do it or will she do it? But I think if they had that marriage, I don't think I think that's almost unbeatable. To be
Right.
quite
Look,
honest.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm not telling anything that I haven't told to both of them. A pairing with Sheila would probably be smart for Zeke. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know how many of Zeke's core supporters would go to Sheila, but I believe that some Sheila supporters will go to Zeke because they don't know Shannon either, and they don't know Leon either. Shit, nobody knows Leon. But so if it's a choice between three people I don't know and someone that I am as devoted to as I am to Sheila Dixon says this is my guy, I think she gets him some votes. I could see a scenario where he wins and she loses. That could be a powerful ticket for him. The question is whether he'd be willing to and whether she'd be willing to. But I mean, in terms of balancing the equities, I think it's a better deal for him than it is for her, because she's not he's not going to go down into the first councilmanic district and get Sheila a whole lot of votes. But Sheila could go up into the 8th and 9th and get him a whole lot of votes. So, if she offers, I would take it.
I do think that there is a certain element of whites, especially newer white voters,
Right.
that came into the first, that aren't privy to the old
Right.
politics of Baltimore. And he's doing commercial, or he's going into their community and saying, look, okay, I know what you heard about that, but she's paid her debt to society.
Right.
And look at the crime that she's brought down under
Yep.
her leader. And I think that especially the younger ones, who
Sure,
can say,
you could have some.
I can go with Madam Eric. She's
Yeah.
hip, she's young. But like you said, there are a lot of white people like, I don't give a damn what you say, Z. I ain't voting for her.
Right.
And it may be the other way around, too. There's some blacks that say, I'm pro-black. I ain't voting for no white boy
Right.
as my council president or as my mayor. Right? We get that, but I agree.
But one thing
more
that
out of
from the show last week when you had Sheila Dixon, I think that she said something that was very pertinent and maybe even opened some eyes on getting supporters, because she said that if she had somebody in that city council position, council president position, if somebody that she can groom, somebody that she can build to actually run it. So I look at it, this is not going to be sort of maybe at the most 2 terms, nothing more than that as
She
far as
said
what
one
makes,
term.
just one
She
term,
said one
yeah.
term, I could fix it in 4 years.
Right.
And that person I groom, i.e. Zeke Cohen, would be the next mayor of the city of Baltimore. Now, that's not something I would say too publicly, because there's going to be a lot of African Americans like,
Yeah.
y'all trying to sneak a white guy in as my mayor on the back end. I'm just telling, that's how they're going to feel.
Right.
But I think when you're looking at a leadership in the city, color shouldn't have a damn thing to do with it, to be quite honest. I know it does for a lot of people, but if you have a real leader that's far in a way better than the next 5 other people that are running, that.
I don't think that race should be a determining factor, but I do think it's relevant.
It's relevant. It's a big relevant factor. I mean, especially look at the last leadership we had that was white.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that to the African American leadership that followed. I don't think these past 2 administrations was far away from Martin O'Malley, to be quite honest. It
Right.
It wasn't too generous for blacks, especially lower end blacks, right?
Yeah, but
they
you
were
have
more
to-
concerned about business. But even though they can relate to black people better,
Right.
at the end of the day, I don't think there was. Sheila's administration probably was the closest to giving something to black people on the lower end.
I think that's true.
perspective
I would agree with that.
than the Pugh or the Rollins Blake.
Right.
Oh, certainly. No, I would agree. I agree with
So
that. That's her
just being
bait.
black
Like,
don't actually mean that you black.
well, this is what I've said all along, and I've been saying this on this show for at least since I first came on, is that, politicians dance with the girl that brung them, okay? O'Malley didn't get there by poor black folks. Catherine Pugh didn't get there by poor black folks. So at the end of the day, her first priority was not to address poor black folks. Sheila, by and large, was supported by poor black folks. So when she got in there, she was going to maneuver to make sure that she could get whatever gifts of the office could bring to poor black folks, because that's who brought her to the dance. I mean, that's just politics 101. It's part of the reason why nothing gets built in Cherry Hill, because there ain't but 22 votes down there. That's just politics.
Man, that early voting site. In
Oh
Cherry
my God!
Hill, they really need to move. I'm sorry.
They had more rats than voters. It was absolutely ridiculous.
That was a waste of 7 days, to be
Yes.
quite honest. And that's not to alienate the voters. They can still go out to their polls and vote. That is not a good spot for early voting.
No.
Neither is where they moved it in
The
East
east
Baltimore
side, yeah, the Mount
to
Pleasant.
the church, Mount Pleasant Church, away from the school. The school was perfect to be
Yeah.
right there. That one on the borderline of Baltimore County, I don't know what the hell they doing down the Board of Elections, but they need to change that. So here's the question. Now that we didn't talked about, because we're going to get back to the mayor stuff, the comptroller. Y'all talked about Leon being hesitant on running, right? We talked about this years ago. Was Nick Mosby running for mayor because he thought he couldn't win re-election in the council? And you're saying that Leon may be thinking twice about running for re-election because Tory Rose may be hot on his heels. But with him not in the race, do we see Sean Tarrant, Marshall Bell, and others who ran?
That's the thing.
Will they now jump out there now that there's no incumbent?
I think you're probably going to have to add
Wesley
West. Right,
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
for Christ's sake.
Yeah. No,
What we see
it's
on-
always the same as far as with the filing deadline. I believe is at the end of January. So you're going to have a lot of people, pretty much everybody and their mom, come out as far as to file. So I think this is a normal thing that was going to happen, and I think it makes it even more sort of the way the people would look at it as far as encouraging and said, let me get out there, let me file, because now it's always hard to beat an incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's no incumbent, then hey, then I'm going to go ahead and put my name in the hat and see what I can do.
Yeah, my phone was ringing off the hook on Saturday night. Folks saying, I know Tori is doing the hoochie coochie in the middle of Fulton. I said, actually, she would have preferred that he waited a couple months, because then, the field is but there's a lot of time out there. And I think nature abhors a vacuum. And with Leon getting out, you got folks sitting around like, Wesley West and who knows, Marshall Bell, Sean Tarrant, all those folks who say, I finished just out of the money last time. Nobody in that district has ever voted for Tory Rose before. People have voted for me before, so I may have a leg up. I just don't think she's going to have the race to herself. And I think if she could have controlled when Leon got out, she would have rather him got out in November, December than in September.
She would
Matter
have
of fact,
waited
we
January 23rd. Would have been her.
Yeah.
I was just thinking maybe not Sean Tarrant, because I remember that he had interviewed for the vacant Senate position in Senate seat in District 41, and I believe he lives in Cross Keys. Which,
He'll move back.
oh.
Just like he moved over there. Come on, cut it out.
It
He
just-
needs to give it up.
It depends on whether he's sleeping on the girlfriend's couch or never mind. No, I get you.
The wife
Okay.
left him, but we ain't gonna get into all that.
I'm sorry for your trouble, Sean.
Who
You know you're
came
my
in
boy.
second last? It was either Marshall.
I
think
believe
Marshall.
Marshall.
Came in third.
I
he
think
came
Sean
in
was
third.
second.
Yeah, I think it was Sean, Marshall, and then Wesley was somewhere in
Right.
there. Like
Yeah, fourth or
That's-
fifth, I
that's-
believe.
yeah,
But
that's
Wesley
gonna be
was
hard.
very strong in that 40th district race. I'm telling you, if Wesley gets in it and laces up them tight pants, it could be a problem
Yeah.
in West Baltimore.
Yeah, because his
agree.
name's been on the ballot
Right.
for the past
Yes.
3 elections straight.
Plus, he's
So-
got them Kool-Aid drinkers that hang with him. I'm scared of them. But yeah, that could be a very. In
Well,
some
I
ways,
ain't
I
gonna
think
tell
Troy
y'all
may
where the
have.
studio is, because he might get hurt walking out this damn studio. And we over West, but we in Sandtown.
Okay, look. Okay, no location information. Okay, but no, I think this actually means a tougher race for Tori. I think she can win. It's a great opportunity, and there's a good chance that she'll be the only woman in a race with a whole bunch of men. So I think in some ways it's good for her, but she's gonna have to work harder.
Yeah. Like you said, people can say all this. They think because, I got 5,000 friends on Facebook and people really know me and all that. They don't realize till they get out there, voters don't know you.
No.
And it's hard. You can be as popular as you want. If somebody has voted for you, especially several times, they become trained. It's like a pattern for them. Yep. So it's easier for them to get votes, even if they ain't do a damn thing.
I'm not going to say who's the best example of that because someone asked me to leave Conway. But, like once you get programmed in your mind that that's who you vote for, then that's who you vote for.
Rain or shine. And actually, people might not even know it's that person. I mean, there's people who run with the name, and it's not actually the person they think it is.
Right.
And they end up, voting for it. So that's going to be
Papa
interesting
Bear,
to
Baby
see.
Bear,
Cut it out now.
Yeah.
Cut
Sorry.
it out.
Okay.
I think that's how my wife got elected. Name recognition.
How dare you?
Well, yes, you'll be sleeping on the couch.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of vacancies, I think it was probably an unfair criticism, but I think because the seniors brought this up this weekend, and I saw that Sheila did bring it up. She didn't bring it up in the context that the Sun put it, but nonetheless she did. And how people feel. Brandon went from running from lieutenant governor last year to being a councilman to suddenly being a council president 2 or 3 months ago to now running for mayor. And some people are going to think, why don't you slow down? What you want to be? You want to be lieutenant governor? Now, mind you, he did it for a reason, with smart political strategy. Right. He knew he wasn't going to win lieutenant governor. They ain't got a chance.
Not with Jim Shea.
Yeah, and he knew running for or being the council president that he has a citywide platform now. But there's some voters, seniors and others who are looking from the outside like, is this opportunistic? Like, is he just doing this to get a seat? And I think that's something he may have to overcome at some point. But now that he's vacated the 2nd District,
right.
Of course, the filler is Senator Corey McCray's sister, Danny McCray.
Danielle.
She hasn't filed yet. We know she's running for re-election.
Oh, yeah.
But the interesting caveat to that is Talmadge Branch's daughter has filed for that seat, to run for that seat. So now it's back to the best versus EDO that we just saw in the Corey McCray versus McFadden.
And we saw how that ended.
They haven't given up. They have not given up, and they're coming for anything best Democratic related.
I thought they were going to do like a weekend at Bernie's and wheel out Warren Branch again, and just sit him in the front of the room and let him, No,
I don't. Another branch,
Right. Yeah.
But you got to give you're going to have to give Danny the edge because you were talking about just campaigning period.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to Corey McCray and my guy Councilman Christopher Burnett comes from that background. You're talking about campaigning and know exactly what to do, and it was very, very impressive when if you look at Danny's campaign logo, you think of Corey.
Yes.
Very similar.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So you
branded.
remember that McCray.
And not only that, but if you think Corey worked hard for himself, he's going to work twice as hard for Danny.
Exactly.
He is not. He is trying to build an empire here on this east side, and he is not going to see his sister go down. Not that she would, because I think she's very personable, and I think she'll be just as good on the doors as him. But with his organization behind her, look, Corey knows how to win, okay? And if Corey knows how to win, Danny knows how to win. I think that, Glenda Curtis and all the rest of the also-rans can run all they want. I think the 2nd District is shut down. Yeah. I think Danny wins.
I totally agree.
So here's my question. I think that baffled a lot of people, and it happened on multiple fronts. One is definitive. The other one is speculative, but I think it's going to happen. When Brandon Scott became council president, he had the power to put all these damn committees together. God knows, I don't know why the hell he did that. You watered down the process of committees. But nonetheless, he had that power. But then he gave the committee that he used to run, public safety, to a Jewish fella up in the 5th District who has absolutely no background in criminal justice, has ran across, actually on the other side of criminal justice, very conservative, a lot of African Americans have a big problem with him up there on several issues, whether it be the ambulance and the other issues that went on there. But he gave him that chairmanship. Now, we all know that's because he wants the Jewish votes. We get that. But then it's also said that the best Democratic Club ballot led by Brandon, or Brandon's ballot, will have the endorsement of Yitzi Schleifer as the councilman in the 5th District when you have an African American that's running in that district, and you may have more, but you definitely have one.
Yeah.
What in the world does that say about the ballot of Brandon Scott and the politics of Brandon moving forward?
That's Sean's area.
If that is true,
You know it's true, damn it.
I think it shows it's telling that you disvalue the black vote. You have more reliability as far as for the white Jewish vote than the actual black vote. I can say that as far as, part of my community, Councilman Schleifer covers. We haven't seen him at an association meeting maybe about 2 years. Yes, he does have his assistant come, but she's really giving no value as far as information. Our work and our resource has always been coming from Vice President Sharon Green Middleton. Now, he's been there on some occasions. I can't say he's been totally absent. But as far as really to address the needs of the community, he's more of, a couple of people have reached out to me not too long ago, and actually particularly one resident that actually came from Shannon Sneed's district and came over in the Falstaff and immediately passed her information and passed her on to his assistant. That shows disinterest. That shows that, look, well, I'll let one of my two black women liaisons handle that, and I'll handle it if so later on. So he's not giving the attention that he needs as far as to really, as a council person, that he would give in his own community of Cheswold and so forth, or Mount Washington and everything. It was just the other day I had posted up a post in regards to some illegal dumping, and a young lady who lives in the 5th District immediately responded and said that, oh, well, you should reach out to your councilman because Councilman Schleifer, in our area, we report it within 24 hours, it's done.
It's done.
And I said, it's done because you have the privilege of living in the area of Mount Washington versus if you come over here, we're talking about, we can't even get 24 or 48 hours for that information to go to the dispatch as far as 311. I don't think that, it's necessary as far as, to me, not even really put it on all the council people. Right. And I don't mean, kind of change the subject area, but my question as far as the inspectors, those liaisons and so forth, as far as addressing those needs. But overall, he hasn't really addressed, he's done a great job in photo opportunities around black people, but as far as not necessarily addressing the needs of the black community, and that's where he falls short. And that'll be very disheartening if, for as my perspective, as far as if Brandon has him on the ticket, just like you said, when we do have an African-American who's running in there and knowing how the issues and the concerns that a lot of that African-American community has, and especially his parents live in that part of the neighborhood, part of the district.
Well, he's running and touting himself as Park Heights, which anybody in Park Heights wouldn't tout him as Park Heights. I mean, he wasn't in Park Heights like that. Might have been in the house. You wasn't out in Park Heights, though. But nonetheless, if you're touting that, right, then that means you're kind of claiming that. And that community, I think, would be somewhat disrespected by a ballot like that. I'm still baffled on how in the world he became chair of public safety. Out of all those council members, you mean to tell me of all people, you give it to him?
Look, I'm not saying.
Don't say you tongue-tied down.
No. What I'm saying is I'm not sharing anything on the radio that I have not said privately and publicly to Brandon. I think Brandon has had very few missteps in his political career. He's very careful. I think he misstepped with naming Yitzi to chair the Public Safety Committee. I think that was a mistake. It may or may not have been a deal he cut. And look, as a former top strategist for Catherine Pugh's campaign, I know how important that Upper Northwest vote is, okay? If that's a deal he cut, then I have no choice but to respect that. I still think that it was a mistake, and I think that for someone that's relatively green in terms of people forget, like Brandon's been on the council for, I guess, 2.5 terms now, but Brandon's never had a political race. Brandon's never been punched in his mouth politically. And, and I said this about Ben Jealous, I've said this about others, is that you don't know the worth of a candidate until you've seen a candidate go home and open their mailbox and see an attack ad. You know what I mean? Or like how you react under that kind of pressure you can't account for that, and you can't simulate those conditions. It has to happen to you. And Brandon was given that seat by Stephanie, and he's never had to fight for it. You know what I mean?
But that's the question, and that's kind of what I was alluding to about the announcement and stuff. Yeah, you might have a pretty good campaign manager.
Right.
But you still got to be the candidate.
Agreed.
And you still got to make those decisions. And I really don't think Marvin made that decision on how that was rolled out.
Probably not.
You've never run citywide.
Right.
You barely ever run a council race.
Right.
When that time comes, you know this.
Yes.
It's a whole different perspective.
It is.
You
It is.
can't go to a community president and try to get those votes anymore.
No.
You need an entire city.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. You can't do them doors like that.
Right.
Like you said, those negative ads are going to happen.
Yeah.
And they're starting already.
And how you react
Going
to
low.
it, and how you react to it is, and I've said that before. We'll have to see. I mean, Brandon, I think is young, handsome, articulate, talented, smart, everything else, but he's never been punched in his mouth before. And until you see him get punched in the mouth, I don't know how you operate. There are other folks who are more seasoned who have been, Jack, he hasn't been punched in his mouth in 20 years, but he knows what a race is. Brandon's never been in a race. You know what I mean? Not where he had to knock his life away because he was scared that he was, running like he was 5 points behind. He's never been there. You know what I mean? So it's a whole different situation for him. We'll just have to see. There are others who are considering getting into the mayor's race who do have more experience with that. So we'll see. I heard today that T.J. Smith is getting in.
Man, cut it out.
Seriously.
Cut it out.
Seriously.
Man, if this dude gets in, I'm leaving Baltimore City. I'm serious.
Okay,
That's a
well.
one-trick pony that ain't got a clue. I mean,
I'm not arguing with you. I'm not going to support him, but I'm saying if you're saying you're leaving the city, if he's running, you better go warm the car up because
Right.
I'm telling you he's running.
But I mean,
I
you
thought he
say
was just letting people talk.
No. This is
Right.
lately. I mean, this is.
Somebody's paying him. He's doing the bidding of somebody in this city.
Oh dear.
Developer, somebody. He ain't getting in just to get in. Don't never believe that. He needs support.
But I say you say something that's very true in regards to Brandon as far as running. But I think that he knew that coming in that he had to do, and I think he's been very creative at having these town hall meetings.
Absolutely.
So now he gets the exposure. I think having it really looks more of a crazy move when you talking about as far as putting Yitzi in that position, because I think that he had a very large shoes to fill. I mean, I think Brandon did an excellent job, and especially with a lot of the nonviolent organizations that Brandon was affiliated with, mainly with 300 Men March movement, and here, at one point, we walked from Baltimore to D.C. and really got that exposure and so forth. So it's like putting anybody in that position, and not just thinking about Councilman Schleifer, but just anybody. You still had to fill some very large shoes as far as what Brandon has done. But I think that
Really?
he knew. I think so. I mean, I think that you had.
Because
He did more with that chairmanship than anyone else had
exactly.
before. You
Yeah,
have to.
you got more sound bites. But what came out of the public under since he was public safety chair, we've had more than 300 homicides every single year. Now, mind you, they put together a crime plan that they didn't have to do. Granted, I give him that. He showed leadership at least. But what really came, what I'm saying is, what came out of it tangibly that I can go outside right now and somebody can say, because of Brandon Scott being the chair of public safety, I'm doing X, Y, and Z.
But
I got
this-
a job, or my family's living good, or anything that's tangible that was done.
But what you have to understand is he's the council chair in a weak council system under a police department that is a state institution. So really all you have as the chair of the public safety is your bully pulpit. You can call a press conference and the sun will
Right.
come and you can say what you want. And to that extent, I think he's utilized the bully pulpit in very powerful ways. At the end of the day, there's not much change that anyone can make as chair of the public safety committee. You can't even hire and fire a commissioner. Like, you just have
Not at all.
the ability to do oversight. But what I will say is that he rode herd on the command staff and demanding that they get the hell out of their cars and resume these patrols.
And then went and buddied up with him at Dunkin' Donuts and shared a donut with him. You can't be on
Perhaps.
both
Right.
sides of
Right.
the
And
But
aisle.
also
Come
at the
on
same
now.
time, just add on to that. I mean, he gone down to Annapolis, knowing that this is a state agency.
Yes.
He partnered
And
up
still ain't get it
with,
passed.
with Corey McRae.
But he
He
got
still
the
ain't get it passed.
he got
But
the
he did-
districts passed.
Right,
The
right.
districts will pass.
No, Corey got the districts passed.
But Brandon was working hand in hand with him on that.
The long-serving issue about making it a state agency to a local agency still has not been passed.
Right, but
Right,
the
but
key
that's
is that he made his voice heard. He was vocal as far as
was.
But
this
if
what
you're
needs to
influential,
happen.
you would have got that passed. Corey
It's
would
not
have
that
had it
easy
passed.
because look, you need to understand that in terms of shifting it to a city control and focus, the city senators don't want that. Antonio doesn't
his
want
own
it.
boy.
Corey doesn't want it. So what I'm saying is you can't blame Brandon for not getting that done.
It is, because that's his act. He should have been able to sit down with them, understand that they had a problem with the bill. You've been in Annapolis. You know how to pass legislation.
Right, but at a certain point, if there's just a fundamental disagreement about whether or not it should be or not, look, you've got the city solicitor and all them down there telling them, if you do this, you're going to expose the city to hundreds of millions of dollars in liability that it wouldn't have otherwise. As long as that impediment stands in the way, those city senators are not going to go for it, and it doesn't matter whether Brandon stands on his head and spits nickels out of his rear.
Here's my thing, and I'm just being devil's advocate, right? Mm-hmm. I know he's going to get mad. Matter of fact, since I put something on Facebook a couple weeks ago, he won't even talk to me. His whole staff has been banned from talking. He won't come on the show no more. Y'all remember he used to come on the show anytime we asked him.
Brandon, come home,
He
little
has
bro. All is
banned
forgiven.
his entire staff from dealing with me and talking about the show.
I don't think.
And the reason is, and this is a valid question. You just talked about it. Oh, he did a good job of going around with these town halls with this new innovative agenda that's going to be passed because he's council president in the next 18 months. Many of which has never been done when he's been on the council, never been tried, and even when it was tried, he voted against it, including the members on the Board of Estimates that we've been pushing for years. And he told me straight out the gate years ago, man, I ain't with that. I'm not supporting. You get somebody to support it, maybe I'll do it. Bill Henry introduced it, and he still voted against it. But now it's a part of your agenda that's going to get passed because you're council president. Come on, now.
Well, but part of that, part of that is when you're not, again, it's a weak council system, and even under a weak council system, it's a weak council system. So the presiding officer of the Baltimore City Council has an extraordinary amount of power. As you can see, he decides not only who's on the committee, but who's the chair. And, back in the day, Jack snatched everybody's staff.
Yeah.
Right, Jack snatched everybody's staff. They all work for Daddy. You know what I mean? That's what he would do. So
he took their budget and everything.
Right.
That's why he got 50 damn people working for the council.
Right, as a
president.
district councilman, when we as advocates are in there telling him, yeah, go tell Jack to screw off, he's like, oh, wait a minute, I got 3 staff, I'm trying to keep them,
I know an 8th district councilman that he can tell you some war stories
Chris,
about that.
call your office. Yeah. But yeah, no, so I don't blame him as much for that. Now, what I will say is that I'm also not happy with Brandon with this whole thing that went down with ABC, where Joan Pratt must have heard Bill Henry tapping on her window pane because she finally woke up at a Board of Estimates meeting and said, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on with Associated Black Charities? What's going on with this youth fund? And the executive director of ABC said, if you're going to question me, I'm just not going to show up. Like, girl, you got $1 million of my money. You better get in here. But in any case, so Joan got mad and was saying, this is, and that was a point where Brandon should have been with her to say, yeah, a new sheriff's in town. Jack, we're not letting you paper this over.
And
you could hear a rat piss on
power
cotton.
because the mayor has those 2 appointees.
Right.
That's why we need to get rid of them.
I agree, but what I'm saying is that was a moment that he could have used his bully pulpit that he didn't, and so I'm not sold on Brandon. I do, if it's between him and Jack, I will sell a kidney for Brandon. But but if it's not, if I think other people are getting in, and we'll see, what happens.
What about? Now, I would love it. She's my senator, so I don't want her going anywhere. She's not running. But it's good to talk about Mary Washington. I know y'all got this draft movement, you and Richard. And
no, don't put me in it. I'm not drafting anybody.
What's the likelihood of her
Let
getting
me
I'm
ask
not
you a
involved
question
in a
before
draft
you get into
campaign.
that.
Yes, sir.
I've seen and heard everybody, a number of people, Mary Washington. But I haven't heard anybody say Jill Carter. You know,
Well,
she
as far
hasn't
as,
said anything.
well, not even saying, but still, well, I don't think that Mary has said anything, but it is
Mary told the
Right.
son, I'm thinking about
Right.
running. Jill never had.
Well, just even the conversation, because
Right.
I know even before a few years back,
Jill
Jill
ran for
never
mayor.
said right. Well, even after that, Jill
lost.
never said anything. But people were trying to draft her, but
And
especially
they
with
drafted her and she lost. Bang. To Sheila Dixon.
yeah, that was back in the day.
right. That
I'm
was
just saying.
not that
They
particular
lost.
race, but still, I think that we think about as far as that bill had came across that pretty much went viral in regards to the whole Catherine Pugh
Yes,
debacle
yes.
and everything.
She was
I'm
the
really
leader of the-
surprised that folks are not really talking about Jill Carter.
Look,
and
I'll
just the-
speak as someone in pure honesty. I begged Jill to run for mayor at least 6 months ago. I mean, we have literally talked about this 12 or 13 times. And Jill was saying, nah, I want to see what Ben does, and I want to see what, and so now it's gotten so late and she hasn't been willing, now I think now that she's hearing other people talk about it, she's kind of saying, well, shit, I'm better than all these people, like,
you know what?
and
I
I
don't
get it, she's
blame
got some
Jill, though,
remorse,
because
but she
they
it's not like
begged
she
her to
hasn't
run
been
for
talked to,
mayor,
because
right?
Right.
and
They
then
begged her to run, and they don't give her no damn money.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's always been. That's why she didn't want to be in the House of Delegates no more.
No.
Because it's like, look, I gotta pay bills too, goddammit.
Right.
And you paying me this, and y'all telling me to run, and y'all want me to be your advocate for the champion of the people.
But y'all don't come
But
through.
you don't come up with a donation of more than $10.
Right.
She can't live like that. She can't run like that. So
She got talked into the Senate race by Catherine Pugh, and nobody came and when she was up against JD, who had all the money that he needed. No disrespect to JD, he's a good fundraiser. I'm not hating on him, but he had all the money he needed, and Jill was going around selling chicken dinners. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be that way. So
Well, she's not a corporate person. I mean,
No.
I get that, But if she had the right individual that can
Yes.
campaign, can raise for her, I
Yes.
think that she'll
I mean, if you look at
definitely
Ma-
make some noise. I mean, it's
I agree, but if you look at Mary's not a corporate person certainly, but
Right.
Mary can raise some
Yeah.
money. But part of that is that, Mary's district is, she's got folks that are in her district that support her that will write her checks, whereas
Right.
the 41st is a little bit different because her base of support in the 41st is not where the checks are written in the
Right.
41st.
Right.
You know what I mean?
that's JD's base.
Yes.
And they still upset that he didn't win, so she might not get checked. So Bill Ferguson, as I told y'all from the get up, he wasn't running.
No.
But, like him over there as the Senate. So I do want to announce, because y'all kind of forgot, we got Ricky Vaughn that's running, and Dante Swinton and Frederick Ware Newsom, who are going to make some noise, and James Hugh Jones II, Ralph Johnson Jr., Lynn Sherwood Harris.
Oh, yes,
all
that's
these people have filed.
these are
right?
all great
Lou
people.
Catelli, that the mayor,
mayor of
over
Hamden.
there over
Hamden.
Hamden. Stokey is running, Kennedy. They're gonna make some noise, right? But the interesting one I got is the Republicans that are running for mayor, right? Your girl Catalina Bird has filed. Guy named William Hurd, who really doesn't show up to anything. But here's the interesting one: David Anthony Wiggins and Shannon Wright, who is the chair of the Republican Central Committee,
Uh-huh.
who just got David Wiggins arrested and charged and convicted because he came to a Central Committee meeting to film it, like he usually does, and speak out. They asked him to leave or whatever the case may be. Apparently, he say, she say, but he went to his bag to get something, and they claimed assault. The entire Central Committee went to circuit court on him, and he got convicted.
Is that the guy that ran
mayor.
for sheriff?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
David.
Something, no, I've seen him on Facebook. Something wrong with him.
But he's running for mayor, though.
Yeah, but something is wrong with him.
That's
Seriously,
gonna be
mentally, there's something wrong
interesting.
with
I
him.
just want to see the Republican primary.
Baby.
That's going to be an interesting primary. Look, they ain't got nothing coming in the general.
No.
But the primary is going to be off. Matter of fact, we're going to take cameras around. We're going to do a live stream,
Yes.
what do they call it, reality show,
Yes.
just for the Republican primaries. For
Yes,
mayor.
just open
I
up
just
the door, throw Catalina and David in there, and slam it shut and see what happens. That's what I need to see. That I might, whichever one of them come out of that 2 men enter, 1 win leaves, I might support. That's gonna be a good one.
So here's another good one. The 3rd district, my main man Ryan Dorsey's over there.
jeez.
Now you got Julius Henson's niece, a woman by the name of Nichelle Henson, who's running.
But let me say something about that. It really scorches my grits on both sides to see this woman whoever she is referred to as Julius Henson's niece, as if anybody in this city knows who the hell Julius Henson is. I mean,
They don't.
no, voters go walk down the street, ask people
He's
who.
been in the news a million times. You know who Julius Henson is.
No,
Well,
in
he
terms of
hasn't been in
name
the news
Everybody
recognition.
lately.
that's watching this show knows who Julius Henson
But
is.
they're
well,
watching
yeah,
a
they're watching
political
the
talk
show.
show. I'm saying,
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
talking
but he
to.
hasn't
well,
been in the news
no,
in
but
years.
get out here on Fulton Avenue,
Right.
knock these doors, and say, "Tell me a little bit about Julius Henson." You might get shot. Nobody
Hey,
knows
you
who
go
that.
out there and knock on them doors
No,
and
sir.
tell me something about Leon Pinkett, Shannon
Probably
Sneed. They'll
not.
look at you like you're stupid.
Right.
So
right, but nobody would say, "Oh, that's Leon Pinkett's daughter," because nobody knows who the hell Leon Pinkett
well,
is.
here's the thing. When
Now,
you're
Rain
referring to
Pryor, I
politics-
understand why you say that's Richard Pryor's daughter. Everybody knows who Richard Pryor is. Even J.D. Merrill, that's Martin O'Malley's son-in-law. Okay, everybody knows who Martin O'Malley is, but when you say, "Oh, that's
We're
Julius
talking to a
Henson's
crowd
niece,"
of people, because that is, and that's her claim to fame. That's what she likes.
so
to
she's
tell
going to have a
people.
whole lot of signs. Congratulations, but she's
No,
not
I
going to
don't
win.
think- I don't think Julius is representing her. Matter of fact, he can't do campaigns anyway in this thing.
Oh, that's a real loss to the political life of this city.
Julius will kill you, boy.
That's okay. I'm willing to go.
And Rain Pryor you stole my glory. But
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
do you really think that Rain has a credible chance, or Nichelle, or let me mention there's one more person, Mel Monk, who's off profile. Can't leave anybody out.
I'm on
You know,
Team
put
Mel
their name
Monk. I just like the name.
Do you? That is a good name. Do you think that they actually have a good chance? Now they say Rain's gonna have some money. Now I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you right now. I told Ryan this. I want to slap the hell out of him for that damn Harford Road move. I take Harford Road every day after I drop my son off to go to work in the morning, and that's the worst thing that could have ever happened to Harford Road.
But you're a
he
commuter.
campaigned on it, right?
Right.
Good for him. But is that going to be a defining moment in this election? Do you think Rain Pryor can beat him? Honestly.
No.
I think she can. I'm going to tell you why. I'm not saying that she should, but what I'm saying is you have to remember the racial dynamics in that district. Ryan won because he was up against a whole bunch of black people. You had Jermaine, you had Marcus, you had, so he got, I think, 30%, and then there were 25, 20, if you look down, just like Stokes, Ryan won because he had number one, but there were so many people that voted against him one time for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at Rain and the campaign that she's going to run, I think that she has the opportunity to build a multiracial coalition against Ryan. Look, I like Ryan,
Is this
but
because
Ryan's
your homeboy's the campaign manager?
no.
Look,
Stefan is a dear friend of mine, but he loves loser candidates. So if I backed everyone that he backed, I'd be in trouble. With the possible exception of Sean.
I agree. You put me in that mix?
No, sir. No. But I mean,
he was his candidate too?
yeah. No, but I mean, he likes the long shot special candidates because he's got. You weren't a long shot, but there are other people that you're like, oh, come on, Stefan. But if he believes in a candidate, he's going to do whatever he can.
Right.
So it's not about Stefan. But what I'm saying is, and I like Ryan. He is an acquired taste. He is a different kind of council member. He doesn't always wear a tie. He's got his hair all there are folks like the Ken Hair, the upper northeast Baltimore homeowner, 70-year-old grandmother. She doesn't like the white guy that doesn't wear a tie and that is a little bit irreverent and is always saying spicy stuff on Twitter. You know what I mean? There is going to be an appetite out there for an anti-Ryan candidate. Now, whether she's able to amass that and get to 50% plus one on him, probably not. But it certainly is going to be the fight of his life because a lot of folks look at her and think of Richard, and she's very personable when you talk to her. So they're thinking, if I'm a 70-year-old black woman homeowner, retired school teacher in Northwood, and I look at Rain and I look at Ryan, Rain's my people. That's my tribe. I know who Richard Pryor is, and Rain is
You
person.
think people are going to vote because she's Richard Pryor's daughter?
I think being Richard Pryor's daughter gets her in the door, and then she sells herself.
Now, mind you, she has some conservative views, especially that she's touted on education.
Yes, she
that
does.
may not do well in a progressive district like that. Just
But
saying.
I don't know.
And
what?
Ryan's going to go male or after male on that.
Right, but see, this is the thing, and this is the mistake people always make with O'Malley in this revisionist history, is that the 3rd district was among O'Malley's strongest areas. It's not really that progressive a district. These are black homeowners. Like when you're hearing that tough on crime stuff, that's coming from homeowners in 3. So if you say, "Oh, she's too lock them up," there are a lot of folks in 3 that are saying, "Nah, lock them up."
The education stuff that she put out was a little.
Yeah, but I don't think at the end of the day that's if you look at the average age up there and the folks that are voting, they don't have kids in the Baltimore City Public Schools up there. Those are retired homeowners that were voting in Democratic primaries. That was how Mary in the end.
You know how many kids got up there?
No, I'm not saying they don't have any kids. What I'm saying is that if you look at the demographic of the average Democratic primary voter in the 3rd councilmanic district, it skews older, it skews female, and it skews African American. And those are women that, by and large, have already raised their children. I think the average, I'll have to look again, but the average age of the people who turned out in the 3rd 3 years ago was, I think, 51 or 52. You know what I mean? Like, so all I'm just saying is there probably are a lot of younger people there, but less of them vote, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Who votes are the homeowners that are in that district. And quite frankly, they're not put off by a lot of that conservative talk as much as I am. Look, if I had to bet, I'd bet on Ryan. No question about it. But the idea that he's just going to stomp her, there's no way that in that district, unless she, throws up on her shoes, Richard Pryor's daughter is almost guaranteed, if she does the work that she's supposed to do, to get to 35 or 40% of the vote. Now, whether she gets to 50 is a whole other question. But it's going to be a race. He's going to have a race, and he knows it,
Yeah, he knows.
And this is the other thing. His worst enemies are some of his supporters, okay?
Right.
Because the racist, misogynist kind of attack that they launched on Rain the day she announced would turn off black voters who may be favorably disposed towards Ryan, at least initially. But just like with Marion Barry in D.C., when the white folks jump on a black candidate, even if I don't like that black candidate, you done pissed me off, white person, I'm voting for that black candidate. And so his people to say, well, who is she and what has she ever done? Well, 4 years ago, Ryan got up off of his parents' couch and decided he wanted to be a councilman. He had never been anything before either, and he'll tell you that, He had never been a community association, even a member, He was a guy that just said, he did. I mean, he tells the story himself. He was sleeping in his parents' basement, and they said, and he was working for his parents' music business, soundproofing business, And he got up one day and said, "Hey, I think I want to run for the council." And his parents said, "Okay, here's some money. Go on out of here. Get off my couch." But to his credit, once he decided to do it, he ran his ass off. He got on the doors. He talked to people.
He had nothing else to do. He wanted to get the hell off that couch.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is he enlisted the help of all these white folks in the 3rd who didn't give a damn that he didn't have a day's worth of experience. But now, all of a sudden, when a black woman announces, they say, "Oh, who are you or what have you done?" Well, if I've done anything, it's more than Ryan had done when he ran. And he turned into a good councilman, So I just say that.
And she has a hell of a track record herself.
She
in
does.
The arts.
Absolutely.
I've known her for a long time.
Yep.
Years ago, I met her. She's really a wonderful person.
Yeah.
So we're about to get closing towards the end. So I want to get through this real quick.
Okay.
We got a new interesting dynamic over in the 4th, my district. Of course, we knew Angie Weiner was over there running. Anton Asaka, not quite sure who he is. I know the young brother, right?
No, that's not him. Anton Asaka was at a range thing. He's probably 50 something.
Who's the young brother that was with Best in them that's supposed to be running over there?
You mean Richard's friend, the one that Richard is supporting?
Nah, Logan is Logan and Dow is an impressive young man.
Right. He's running in 4, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That one, he's been over in Africa for years.
Yeah.
Fought Ebola.
Graduated from Harvard at 12 or something. He's an impressive.
Stanford. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. It was something. Yeah.
Yeah, he's sharp.
He's an impressive guy.
Yeah.
But
there's another one that he was with Corey and them for years. He's younger. You would know him too. I can't think of the brother's name.
Is he the one that's running the trees?
Right.
Mark.
I can't think of his name for nothing. He's supposed to.
Trees Foundation or something.
Yeah, he hasn't filed yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he will. Or
I
not.
think he's running. I think.
But here's the question. 'Cause we know there's a ton of people in the 12th district. The only one who's filed is Philip Westry over there. But we know that Robert Stokes is going for re-election, and there's a bunch of candidates over there.
Gary Crum, Kelly Cross, Emma Oppenheim isn't running. David Helliker is running. So there's probably 5 or 6. But again, if they're not careful and don't get in a room, they're going to re-elect Robert Stokes.
Right.
Yeah. What was I going to... Oh, that's the question. If Shannon Sneed runs for re-election, runs for city council president, of course, the story I broke is Best is going to now go back to go to Antonio Glover, which they should have gave before. And so now the question is, can Antonio win, even with Best support? And who else might run in that district in the 13th?
I want Jackie Addison. I'm just being honest about it.
Jackie.
She has done the work. She is in the community. This is the other thing. We have been building towards it. I know some of y'all aren't going to like this, but we have really been building towards trying to have a majority women council, and if I can avoid it, all things being equal, I would like to see a woman replace a woman, to keep that balance. And, I think
Antonio been putting in work too now. He's been putting in work a lot longer than a lot of people in that district.
Not longer than Jackie.
Antonio's been around for a minute. Now, Jackie's been putting in work. She just hasn't been on the scene like Antonio has.
Right. And she's been a quiet leader. I think she's done some phenomenal work. I can clearly say that she's been one of the workhorses within the Central Committee, of course, including my wife as well. But Jackie has...
See, there's another issue. Right. Would you describe Antonio Glover as one of the workhorses of the Central Committee?
I would say... Like I said, my top. I like Antonio Glover. You know what I mean.
I do too, but he's not been.
But no, he hasn't been as great as far as the workhorse as Tammy and Jackie.
Yes.
No, I mean they've been carrying the load throughout
the entire
district, including
city.
the at-large members.
Yes.
You know what I mean. So that's why I would say that Jackie would be very, very favorable when it comes to if she chooses to actually. And also, I don't look at her husband. I mean, her husband will get to the ground. Yeah, Joe will get to the ground and start putting them signs down.
That's the problem I have. Honestly, the only problem I have with Antonio is that if you're looking for a promotion, I want to look at the job that you've done. And rightly or wrongly, Antonio is one of the few people that was thrown off of the Central Committee for not showing up before. Then he ran again, and his attendance record isn't, mine isn't either, but his isn't perfect even now. I get frustrated by people who run for office and then they don't show up. That's my problem. I like him.
But I want them to start stepping up. Here's what I got a problem with, even on the Best front, right? Because they tend to throw people to the side. Now I know Antonio had his thing last time. What happened was Shannon ran the first time. They both did.
Yeah.
Shannon came up about 42 votes short. Right. The next time around, she wasn't sure she was going to run.
Right.
So Antonio said, "All right, well, since you don't know, I'm going to run."
Right.
And then he figured that Corey and Best would have his back, and then she decided to, rightfully so. Then they backed her, right, and kind of left him out there. He's already filed, so he's not going to back out,
right.
And so that was one thing. And even with Jackie's guy, with Joe, that's has to be Team Best, right? They carried the water for Corey,
right.
And yet that was their back candidate, along with myself for Board of Elections.
Yes.
And they allowed a Republican to say, "Nah, I don't give a damn about y'all two black niggas. I'm gonna put the two black women who barely got any votes at all and put them on the board." And they never stepped up to say, "Nah," because the senators have that right to do. They can actually say when session comes back, "You know what? Y'all can't be on here no," because they have to confirm that.
Right.
And it was just
that's
like
the
Joe
conversation.
you know what I mean? Like, you gotta step up for these people. And I'm saying this because Joe and Jackie put in work.
Yeah, phenomenal. But I would say if Antonio will have the right conversation with the Mosbys, he works for Marilyn Mosby. I think if he has the right conversation and convince her and say, "Look, back me, support me financially, give me the exposure that I need as far as so I can bring in the money," he'll get elected. Because I can say that even though that he may have a poor, attendance record, but he is working within the community.
Within the state's attorney.
Yeah, he's not like laying on the couch and just
no,
he's working.
Campaign.
Yes, he will.
Yes, he will.
Absolutely.
Yes, he will.
I agree
And
with
he's done that with the state's attorney.
Yeah.
Question is though, if Jackie does decide or think about it, what will the decision be of Corey and Bess, who have two central key figures of Bess on there? What would there be?
Well,
divided
look, Corey
loyalties
is
or-
now. Corey is the Don Corleone of the East Side. Okay,
He
is
is
never
Bess,
going.
let's be honest.
He is never going to allow a situation where Jackie and Antonio run against each other.
That's
He's
not
go-
true. He just did it with Shannon and
Yeah,
but-
Antonio.
Yeah, but that was a little bit different.
that
Well,
wasn't no
this
damn
is the
different.
other thing. No, because Corey was not in a position of power then either. Anyway, he was running
He
himself.
He was still Best. No, he wasn't.
No.
he was already a delegate. He wasn't a senator yet, but he was still in charge of Best. This was only
No.
4 years ago.
Right.
In
This is what I'm
2016.
saying. Right. In
16.
Right. He was a freshman delegate. He did not have the kind of power that he has now as a senator. Trust me when I tell you, he's going to get the two of them in a room, and Joe too, and say, one of y'all runs. The other one doesn't.
Well,
That's how that's
Jackie,
going to go.
Joe ain't gonna run if Jackie runs. You better
Right.
believe that.
Oh,
They're
no,
gonna
I
be the
know.
same.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think it's going to happen that
I think they're going to give it to Antonio because they feel like they owe him from last time, and then Jackie and them are next up for
but Jackie
state
is-
delegate or. She ain't that damn old. I know what you're trying to say.
No,
She
I'm
ain't
saying
that old.
she's older than Antonio. You know, I mean, if somebody has to wait, why shouldn't it be him? But okay. And plus, she's a woman. I think it's important. But anyway, so
I
that
think
was 13.
to me, she'll have a great chance as far as winning that seat if she does choose to run. But I think that, Jackie is the type of personality is very low key.
Yeah.
Doesn't like to
And
be in
humble.
the spotlight.
Yes, she
very
is.
humble and will do what she need to do as far as
She's
to
a
work
team
and
player.
make you successful than
Yes.
actually on
That's
actually
very
successful
true.
on her end.
Very
So-
true.
She's the type of like, go ahead, Antonio.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
I'll
exactly.
wait my turn.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the good part. 14th district, of course, we know Odette and Joseph going head to head. Rita Church has gotten to the race and filed. So that'll be an interesting dynamic. I know you roll your eyes with that, but if votes come away from Joe, that certainly helps Odette.
Oh, yeah.
right?
No question.
And so will there be a division there? How does that look? Of course, Odette just got Mary Pat Clark's endorsement, who told us specifically she was staying out of it a few weeks ago. Now she's in it. She support.
I
along
think
with
she
Matt.
said she was going to stay out of it because she thought Odette was going to walk over Joe. And now she's looked out and seen that Joe is getting momentum and she's trying to step out and stop it. That's my interpretation.
But Senator
He's got
Washington
Mary
is in-
Washington.
and-
He's
yes.
got Comptroller Peter
Right.
Francho, who will be on the show in the studio tomorrow, 2 o'clock. He's getting some momentum. He ain't playing.
Oh,
They
yeah.
out there in them streets.
Oh, yeah.
That's
What ab-
going to be a hell of a race.
What
over
about
there.
District 10?
Man, there's so many damn people. Felicia Porter,
Felicia
of course,
Porter
is
is-
my girl
yeah.
and our girl. And
And
there's-
Richard Parker just
Woo!
got blown out of the water.
What? Is he running?
No, did you see he got hemmed up by the special prosecutor because when he ran for sheriff, he made up a bank account and had false numbers on it and all
that
those.
was in the newspaper
What?
the other day.
I missed that
Yeah,
one.
last week.
Yeah, he's
yeah.
out of it.
Thursday,
So he's not
Friday.
running in 10. So I think it's,
I think it's Felicia Porter's to lose. I mean, she's been
absolutely.
knocking on doors. She's been very aggressive as far as to making
but
sure
I tell
that she
you, there's
engaged.
there's
Got
that
a
girl.
Conway name though. Is it Conway on the ballot?
Oh God, right. You never. But no, this is the other thing is that there's this candidate, and I can't remember her name, but I'm sure she's filed. That I told y'all she has a story that will, and she's got money. You know, she comes from the
Tasha. Goins?
yes Goins, yes. Watch her. She's one to watch. But I agree. I think it's Felicia's to lose, especially with
Now,
Reisinger's support.
Cynthia Jones has been a staple in that 10th
Yes.
district for a long time.
Yeah, she's going to get a lot of votes from like her neighborhood, but I don't see her like having and putting together enough of an operation to challenge Felicia's everywhere. I think Natasha's going to be everywhere. I think
Natasha,
Cynthia will.
what's her- is she African American?
No, she's a white girl. White.
So, but see, that's the thing. If Cynthia pulls enough votes away from the African American community,
Right.
and Ray gets his
Ray
little
Kwan,
teeny
right.
bit from Conway,
The Conway
that
zombies.
could hurt Felicia. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? And so,
And it opens the door for Natasha. Natasha's going to have money. She is a former, commercial sex worker turned U.S. Senate staffer that founded a women's empowerment program in Baltimore. Like, if you really? Yeah, you need to have her on and hear that story. You'd be like, she was
Well, we're
like,
about to start
she
the
will
back
tell
down
you in a
voting
minute.
here,
I
so,
got off
yeah.
the bus from, I grew up in a trailer park in Louisiana. I got off the bus in D.C. fleeing my lecherous stepfather, and I found myself on a bench in Washington, D.C. at 19 years old, and I knew if I wanted to survive, I was going to have to sell the one thing that anyone wanted, and that was my vagina. And I went out there, and I became...
that would support a
Yes,
candidate just like
yes,
that.
because she actually, if you Google her, she became one of the biggest madams in D.C. You know, like, she wasn't like a streetwalker, but she'll tell you in a minute, I got addicted to whiskey and crack, and that was my thing for a while. But I was also still one of the biggest madams in D.C., and if you Google it, it is her. You know, she's young. She's probably 45 or 50, but, like, she's lived a life. But she has, you know, her life experiences is... You know, on the doors, I think are going to be very powerful. I like Felicia, but Felicia is a young kid who looks like she ain't been through nothing. Natasha looks like, you know,
Tell you something.
she's
You
had a
can flip
life
on Felicia
experience.
if she wants. She's
No.
been through a lot.
No,
And
I'm not saying
might
she
not live
hasn't.
a life like that.
I know she ain't sat on a bench and sold her.
She's going on like a 3rd degree or something. She's
Yeah,
working on.
absolutely.
I mean,
No. I'm not discounting her. I'm just
You
saying
should have
that.
saw her out on that election poll over in the Southwest side when a couple of people was trying to test her. So the real Felicia came out. That she knows how to get downright dirty if
I believe
necessary,
that.
but also to bring you the education, especially when it comes to public health.
Yes,
mental
absolutely.
health and so
No
forth.
question.
That she knows exactly what she's talking, and she knows exactly what those communities needs that's in that district.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to look at. We started
Look
our
at
Value My
Natasha
Vote
Coins.
interviews
Yes.
this week. That we'll be starting to get the content, releasing them every week, once a week, and we're going to be doing live stream debates on every district across the city of Baltimore and all 3 citywide races as well. So you definitely want to tune into that. We got to go. We've had a wonderful show. I'm hoping y'all. I see a lot of people who have stayed.
We had a
and
lot
joined
of people.
in. Yeah, and they've been tuning in.
And we're going to make sure we start on time. I said that the other day. Don't say it. Don't say
Didn't
it.
show up till God knows when.
Well, traffic.
And, we got it down now, so we know that no music for the intro. We're good. We got it down. You know what I mean? We ain't going to let no one person stop no show. You know what I mean? We keeping it moving. Even if they ain't think we knew what we was doing, we knew what we doing. So we got it going. Tomorrow again, 2 o'clock instead of 5. We'll rerun it at 5, but Comptroller Peter Franchos will be here live in studio. We'll do that interview, and then Wednesday we'll be back at 5 talking with the live stream interview from Rabia Shadri from New York, talking about the Anad Saeed, and a reporter who will be joining me live to talk about some of the issues going on. Next week, Brandon and your staff, I know y'all paying attention. If you ain't too scared, you can come on anytime you want, buddy. Anytime. Next week, we're good to go. We can have Zeke, anybody else on the show, but we really want to start getting them doing the Value My Vote stuff, these interviews, and come on the show. I'm sure a lot of these people that's sitting here watching this show would love to ask you some questions, buddy. If you ain't too scared or too busy.
Don't do it, Brandon. It's a trap.
Love you, brother. But anyway, until tomorrow, remember, new promise begins with a new day. Therefore, the promise of tomorrow is greater than that of yesterday.